If you want to make sure you stay in good conversation, you gotta tune in to Coffee and Conversation with Collette. That's me. Thursday mornings from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. on the only station, WHBR TV 33. See you soon.
Great. Amazing Friday to you. Rise and shine up and at 'em. It's an amazingly awesome day. You're going to make it ridiculous. And you're officially tuned in to Coffee and Conversation with Collette. And I'm Collette. And you all know I do my curtsy because that's what I do. Because that's what, for me, shows reverence to you. Because as I state, and you all should already know, that you could be anywhere watching anything, doing anything, and you made the conscious decision to stay tuned in to WHBR TV 33, Comcast 91, Roku, streaming live, smoke signal, whatever, bus, train, automobile, whatever it is that you have to do, that you consciously do to make sure you're a part of the conversation. Because you know at the end of our time together, Fridays, we have 2 hours together, that you will be educated, enlightened, and empowered. Now, what you do with that is on you, but that's the mandate. Education, enlightenment, and empowerment. It's really that simple. So I know that you all are just elated. I mean, the weather's great. Everyone's walking in the sunshine. Just be mindful of what's going on. Different energy out here. People want to try to do different things when the weather gets nice. So I just want to make sure that you're aware of what's going on. And we're in May, right? So we're in May. I know school is probably doing its thing. Kids are getting a little antsy. Whatever this looks like, the birds are chirping. Everything is happening right now. So just be mindful of all of it. And what do they say? Govern yourselves accordingly. So look, and maybe that's just my nice way. Let me give you the call-in numbers, okay? 313-868-0342. 313-868-0351 and 313-868-4336. And so maybe that was my intro and my way of getting to a conversation today. And I see the lines are lit already. Getting to a conversation today that I know you all are going to have a little problem with me. And it's okay, because when these things come to me, I always try to look at it for what it is, to be able to create the components of a conversation that will just make us think. So what do they say? This is my disclaimer. Don't shoot the messenger, get the message. So let me just share this. I always try to set the tone. I set us up for what we have been experiencing, what this has looked like for us. So for over the last month or so, we've really been looking and assessing where we are in this country. And so much so where we are to have a concrete basis for what the system is, what the system will and won't do for you, how you understand the system, and then determine what you will and will not do as it pertains to the system, and then as it pertains to how you govern yourselves. So we started off with the acknowledgement of the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King. And then right after that was the celebratory experience with the life and legacy of South Africa's own warrior queen, Winnie Mandela. And then we talked about the Equal Justice Initiative. We talked about lynching, what that looked like as a fear tactic. When people are afraid, they try to evoke and enforce a power upon a group of people that they believe are less than, or they want to make less than, because then we presented the construct of what is there to fear about the Black man? Why fear the Negro? Or even more importantly, why America needs the Negro. We talked about that. And then we said, coming off of that, our process. Do we understand what the process is in America, period? The process as a citizen, the inalienable rights that the Constitution gives, and we walk in a space that we are not citizens of these United States because we keep asking for them to give us things that we're supposed to walk in as a citizen, actually as the original citizens of these United States. So I was asking us, do you look at the narrative? Do you try to change the perspective? Because why are we asking for something that's our right? We're asking for the right to vote. Hello? As a citizen of these United States, the voting right is yours. You're asking for democracy. if you understand what the Constitution is, the preamble, democracy is the governing premise of these United States and who we're supposed to be. But if you walk in and act like you don't know and act like you're not deserving and act like something isn't for you, then maybe that's why we keep having the problems that we're having. We're still having the conversations about 40 acres and a mule or what the government or what America owes us. And I just wonder, as the onset, as we're walking into Freedom Fund Weekend with the NAACP, what does that look like for you? Senator Cory Booker is going to be the keynote speaker. Are you all members of the NAACP? Are you going to the festivities this weekend? Is that a part of engagement for you in this process of empowerment and education and enlightenment? Is it relevant to you? I'm just asking, as we're understanding where we are and what this looks like for us. And then we just put it all together as it pertains to politics and policy. We are in key prime political season. In a couple of months, you all will be voting for key positions in this state. And I just want, and in my conversation with everyone, and as I post when there are meet and greets that are established, I share with you all. My goal is that you are educated so that you will make the best decision. Once you get in the ballot box and you grab the stylus and you go to choose and select and elect, that's on you. But I want you to know why you do what you do, why you choose who you chose, not just because your pastor told you to. They came to the church and they were waving and they bought you chicken. Or because your mother and father say that this is the person to vote for and you don't know because you didn't educate yourself, but you just figure they should be right. I mean, there are plenty of times in my household where we have healthy dialogues about the support of a candidate, and we've deferred. And a prime example, when Ken Cockrell ran, Honorable Ken Cockrell ran, I voted for him. There was some dissension in my household about the whole conversation, and my position was, well, guess what? I know him. I have a relationship with him. So I wanted to be able to have access. Period. Because as I understand government, I didn't need someone in an office to try to tell me what they were going to do for me. Because the truth is, my goal as a citizen is to tell them what they're going to do for me. I don't need you to have a plan for me. I need to have a plan for you. So I'm trying to ask us, are we preparing to give our plan? So many people have been talking about the candidacy of gubernatorial candidate Shri Thanedar. And one of the dialogue points was, well, Collette, I don't know if he has a plan, but he knows the issues. Well, guess what? I want a candidate to know the issues. I mean, like back and forth. I want the candidate to be able to identify with what is going on in each of these communities because they're diverse. The issues and dynamics in Detroit are very different than in Ann Arbor, very different than Saginaw, very different than Benton Harbor and Ypsilanti and St. Charles and all those different places. I want you to just understand it. And then once you walk into the space, because whoever is selected and elected for an office, you still have to walk in to analyze what was done prior to, and then determine if and what you can undo. And then it shapes what your policy and your plan is going to be. Do I need to say that again? Because the same individuals, I know no one understood and had a conversation with the camp for Governor, then candidate Snyder. I didn't hear anyone talking about, does he have a plan? And I don't know if he has a plan. Why are we always just so critical of people that are of color? Let me ask that, because I'm going somewhere with this. We did the same thing with President Barack Hussein Obama. Oh, he didn't do enough for black people. Oh, he didn't have a plan for black people. He was not just the black people's president. He was the president of these United States. So that means that he has to represent all of the people. But I'm sorry, out of all the previous 43 presidents, had you asked what their plan was for black people? You didn't ask Clinton. Y'all just thought he was so cool as long as he was playing the saxophone on Arsenio Hall. And he was the one that did the three strike, the harshest drug sentencing that had an immediate impact on people of color. But y'all love Clinton. Y'all love Clinton. You didn't ask anything about that. I'm just asking. So where I'm going this morning, slavery by choice. That's our topic for today. If you all have not been aware of what's going on, there's a groundswell of conversation that Kanye West was on having an interview on TMZ. And in his dialogue, he's like, slavery, some 400 years. I'm feeling some kind of way about that. I think it was about choice. That a group of people just actively chose to be in a space by choice. And so a lot of you are going to say, Collette, oh my goodness, you're up in arms, and you start calling. I know, I see all the lines are lit right now. Because you're like, how can you say that? People were always trying to escape. No, people weren't always trying to escape. I'm just trying to have us look at it for what it is. And the truth is, I'm not trying to analyze the conditions as they were 400 years ago. My position is right now. We're slaves by choice right now. What we do right now is a slave mentality. Like a Geppetto to a Pinocchio, slave master to a slave. We are enslaved to jobs that don't actually give us a return, but we believe it's something because it's a couple dollars. We had a great show on yesterday with the Patriot, and then one of the callers was talking about, you all believe that, and Patriot said, well, no, Collette, he gave me a little push and pull, and that's always great, that he believes that those who are elected and selected know what they're doing in office because they come out with a better offering. Okay, well, let's look at that scenario. So if you start off making $60,000, $70,000 as an elected official, and then you graduate out of that to $100,000, maybe if you're lucky, $200,000 job, okay, then you think you're doing something. But then how do you juxtapose that to when Sheila Cockrell, as a nonprofit, got $1 million grant? I'm sorry, that's not a job, and she happens to be white. She got $1 million grant. And the black folks just want jobs. Because you all referenced Santil Jenkins, who was the president of City Council, and now she's over at Thought. And then you all referenced Ken Cockrell. And now he's, I forgot where he was. I think he may be at Habitat. And so you all referenced those, so I'm letting you know that in those $100,000 or $200,000 jobs, compare that to $1 million grant. Or I'll do you one better. Those of us who are running up and down, and hear me, I tell everyone, shoot, the people at the plant make money. You get your profit sharing back. But you all know the CEO, Bara, she made $21 million. That was her salary. Did you hear what I said? $21 million. So where you're happy with your $100,000 and your $10,000 profit sharing, your CEO is making $21 million. So we're slaves. I'm saying it. We're modern day slaves. We're modern day slaves to a process and a policy which I believe has not benefited us overall. We join names and we join organizations that have names because we're familiar with the name, but they're not doing anything really, in my opinion, that's effectuating a positive change in our communities other than a conversation. And I'm not saying the conversations are always bad, but do you expect more? Maybe not. That's why they don't do more. I'm saying that. Maybe that's why we have churches on every corner, because there's a different ideology, because we were taught not to agree with each other because you had a slave Negro in the fields, and then you had a house Negro, and then the house one was supposed to be better than the field one, and then whoever was closest to the master. So then when you all thought you were going to get together and have some conversations about how to make each other better, then we want to keep arguing about who's going to run it and who's going to be the head of it and who's going to count the money and who's going to sign off all the checks. And then you think your idea is better than the other person's idea, so you can't work together with the people that look like you. But the people who don't look like you don't even include you in the dialogue, and you don't question anything. You just sit right there and act like a good slave and then do what you're supposed to do day in and day out. Isn't that the same thing with the IRS? The IRS, that you don't have to pay taxes. We pay them though. Donald Trump for 19 years hadn't paid taxes. You all blatantly see it. He blatantly said it. But if we tried to do that, oh no, the government, they gonna come and arrest me because I'm hello? Slavery. I'm asking. You don't like it. I can see it through the lens of the camera. You don't like it. But we're slaves. And is it by choice? We can do better. We keep having the conversations right now about understanding what it is and what the statistics are and who the people are and what the government is. And then we use that as a reason as to why we're not any better. We're slave to the mentality in which they present to us that you can't do more. Oh, that unemployment is high. There are no jobs. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, everyone's in uproar now because the downtown is thriving, the downtown is growing. But you never cared about the downtown before it became the downtown. And where you live right now, you didn't do the work to make it better. So why are we having these conversations? I'm just asking. Because we're in a slavery mentality. We always want what the other person has, what the other group has, what the other perceived dominant group has. And then that's when we create an uproar. Because we don't have what they have versus fighting for what we should have and then making those that we select and elect accountable for what we should have based on what we tell them. I said it. So a lot of you, when you're preparing to talk about, oh, the candidate, as I told you all yesterday, I don't care who the candidate is because I have a mindset and I have an understanding that I'm supposed to tell them what to do for me. I'm not supposed to let you tell me what you're going to do for me. That's not how this works. You're supposed to be the public servant. And again, it all goes back to power. We've given our power away. So when you have a slavery mindset, that means that you believe that you have no power. You walk in a space where you are not empowered, and you let everybody else dictate to you what you're going to do. That's slavery by choice. So what I'm going to do, I set it up for us. All the lines are lit. I see you all. I want us to go to the clip. I want us to see the conversation, slavery by choice, as was stated by Kanye West. If you all will allow, indulge me. It's about 10 minutes. And then I'm going to go to the lines. So let's take a look at the clip.
Republican strategist Michael Singleton, CNN political commentator Mark Lamont Hill, and writer and journalist Kierna Mayo. Good evening.
Good evening.
To all of you.
Hey, Don.
So today, Kanye West managed to shock us again while at TMZ's offices today to film TMZ Live. He made these stunning comments about slavery.
You hear about slavery for 400 years? For 400 years, that sounds like a choice. Like, you was there for 400 years and it's all of y'all? You know, like, it's like we're mentally in prison. I like the word prison because slavery goes too direct to the idea of blacks. It's like slavery, Holocaust Jews, slavery is blacks. So prison is something that unites us as one race, blacks and whites being one race. That we're the human race.
Kierna, slavery for 400 years is a choice. What's your reaction?
It's, again, unfortunate, you know. We're all worried about Kanye, but at this point we're all also angry and offended and hurt. And he's also factually incorrect, right? So slave rebellions, armed slave rebellions have happened in every slaveholding state in this country. We have resisted slavery for as long as we've been here. His association with slavery is so just uninformed. And I think the problem with Kanye today is that he's taken for granted that his lack of information, it can pass for opinion in a public sphere. And particularly for his young black fans and followers, I'm worried for them because I'm not sure that they can make the distinction between where he's going and the truth.
Well, and that's why we're covering it so much, because in my estimation, this is dangerous. And again, as I've said all along, and you said Kanye can say whatever he wants. He can believe whatever he wants, but he should understand the power of his platform. He has to be responsible, as Van said today, and he has to know his facts before he thinks, Mark, that this is a new conversation.
Right.
That he's having, because he just discovered it.
He just discovered some information, and I want him to discover information. I also want him to discover books.
Yes.
And I want him to read those books and read that information before he offers a public opinion. But in the Kanye West universe, at least right now, whatever he thinks is the most important thing, facts be damned. And that's something that's super dangerous. In many ways, he is like Trump. I mean, I think he's wrestling with some stuff. But
I was just going to say,
I see why he likes Donald Trump. And
he says why he likes it.
Yeah, I mean, he's a rich, successful white man who does whatever he wants under any circumstances. He doesn't need facts. He doesn't need anything else.
He doesn't read.
And he just says what he thinks, and he doesn't read. I mean, I see why he likes Donald Trump.
But the thing is that he talks about he doesn't know he doesn't even know his history of Donald Trump.
Right.
Yeah.
So he just hasn't read about Donald Trump as well, because then maybe he would not be saying these things.
But he also, let's not extract Kanye from hip-hop and like the origins around his generation in hip-hop. He was up against half of an MC nation that was naming themselves after white men, right, who were supposed to be self-made, who were supposed to be a la Trump in this very kind of flashy, screw you, I do me kind of ilk. And so there is an attraction to, I think, what he associates with braggadocio and bravery and radical free thought. However, you're wearing a MAGA hat as though that's not sheepish.
Like, we ain't do that, though. We ain't do that part. We still said F the police. We still said my president is black.
Absolutely. And so did he. And so did he.
And that's why.
And so did he.
And that's what I'm worried
So,
about.
Shermichael, Kanye tweeted just a few hours ago. He tried to clarify this, right? So I'm going to put these words up. He said, "To make myself clear, of course I know that slaves did not get shackled and put on a boat by free will. My point is for us to have stayed in that position, even though the numbers were on our side, means that we were mentally enslaved. The reason why I brought up the 400 years point is because we can't be mentally imprisoned for another 400 years. We need free thought now. Even the statement was an example of free thought. It was just an idea." So he's backtracking, but does that make sense?
No, it doesn't, Don. I mean, look, I think even a cursory understanding of slavery and the history of slave people or enslavement would have better positioned him to make a more accurate and historically factual statement. He did not. The premise of his statement, or of his tweets rather, that he is a free thinker is somewhat absurd to me. And intellectually speaking, I would advise Kanye to pick up a book written by Immanuel Kant back in the 1700s, The Critique of Pure Reason. Perhaps that would better prepare him with the necessary tools to be able to truly be a free thinker, because what he said is not a free thinker. There's nothing genius about it. It's blatant ignorance, and it's embarrassing. And for all the young people who have invested in him, who go out and buy his sneakers, who buy his albums, what do you say to those individuals? It's because of them he is where he is at currently. Yeah. He owes those folks an explanation.
Yeah. Yes. So listen, and we have you here. You're a black conservative. Again, this is not about politics, although people are trying to frame it that way.
Well, Don, it's not. It's like the difference. Yes, I am a black conservative, but I can tell you that the reason why I'm a conservative, right? I can explain the epistemological definition of conservatism versus liberalism. Right. I have spent time reading books by Edmund Burke and John Locke and Michael Oakeshott and Robert Nozick, who all have their own issues, as Mark Lamont Hill can factually state. But with that stated, my belief system is grounded upon an intellectual exploration of something. Kanye's is not. There's a distinct difference between the two.
I hope he's watching, because you just preached right there. Kanye recently spoke with radio host Charlemagne the God. That interview came out today. Here's part of what he said.
Why you gotta keep reminding us about slavery? Why don't you show us, put Michael Jordan on a $20 bill?
But Harriet Tubman was the slave who rebelled, though. Like her and Nat Turner in a different frequency, though. They kind of were like you when you said you didn't feel like being controlled.
Yeah, you know what? It's funny, like, my boy Tremaine tweeted, you know, a picture of me and Virgil, and he said Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. And all these people got mad. It's like, how can you compare them to that? Man, I know this is going to cause an uproar, but certain icons is just too far in the past and not relatable.
Wow. It's stunning, right? It's stunning on so many levels. First of all, again, this idea of why we're still talking about slavery is a right-wing, alt-right talking point. This idea about black-on-black crime, right-wing talking point. This idea, everything he said.
He brought that up today, and it's like I wanted the guys in the room, and you know, Van was amazing to say, black people kill each other because of proximity. White people kill each other because of proximity.
Right.
Because they live together.
See, but there you go with that data again. You keep using these facts, which contradict Kanye's feelings. You can't keep doing that in the Kanye universe. That's the problem. And we have to keep pushing it. And that's why this conversation is necessary. It's not to persuade Kanye. Kanye probably can't be persuaded. But it's to persuade the people who watch this conversation so that they know.
Do we have time to run Van's? Can we run Van's soundbite right now? Okay, so this is Van, writer Van Lathan. Was clearly upset. He was passionate, and it was across the room.
Yeah.
And then he had some words of choice for Kanye. Watch this.
I actually don't think you're thinking anything. I think what you're doing right now is actually the absence of thought. And the reason why I feel like that is because Kanye, you're entitled to your opinion. You're entitled to believe whatever you want. But there is fact and real world, real life consequence behind everything that you just said. The rest of us in society have to deal with these threats to our lives. We have to deal with the marginalization that has come from the 400 years of slavery that you said for our people was a choice. Frankly, I'm disappointed, I'm appalled, and brother, I am unbelievably hurt by the fact that you have morphed into something, to me, that's not real.
Clarity. 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 But there's an interesting piece that happens there. I don't know if you saw the tail end.
What he says, you need to be responsible. Kanye wanted to hug him.
But so Kanye's like, I'm sorry if I hurt you, brother. I'm sorry if I hurt you. And
but
so
Don,
they begin.
Hang on, let her finish. Let
me just make this point. I think it's kind of interesting the way that Kanye emotes, right? So he has these one-on-one relationships and kind of extrapolates what happens in a one-on-one and projects that onto the whole. So he loves Trump because you've met him 3 times, and so that's your boy, and so that's his reasoning for standing for him. And so I feel like similarly in this situation, you see the side of Kanye after this where there's a genuine moment where it's just dawning on him that he actually impacted someone.
Right.
And in that second, he's ready to move on. He wants to hug you.
Yeah.
He goes into this whole free love thing, which is another
Go ahead,
piece.
Michael.
But this is why, you know, I was going to say, this is why we have to be so careful about considering people geniuses, right? So many people say Kanye's a genius. Without a doubt, he's had a successful music career. He's done fairly well for himself. He's gained so much of the world. And yet, despite all of the advancements that he has made economically speaking, he's still so ignorant of all the encounters, if you will, that occur between human nature and the human experiences, and why certain people are impacted by certain things differently, and how marginalized groups of people struggle in comparison to those who are not marginalized at all. I mean, Don, the fact of the matter is this, right? If you're enlightened, if you're an independent free thinker, then you have sort of gone through the process of from benighment to being free. It reminds me of the allegory of Plato's cave, where they're the individuals who see these shadows before them, and they believe that the shadows they see in front of them is true. But it's not true. It's not true at all. And that's what's so troubling about this, that we're having this conversation about this guy with this huge platform, with so many people who follow him, who would take those words as truth.
But
That's not the case.
And that's just it. You don't have to be a genius at everything.
No, you don't.
Neil deGrasse Tyson can't make bombs. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
And
I wouldn't call. I push
can't
back
take
on that,
politics.
Mark. I push back on that at all. He's not a genius whatsoever, and we need to stop just using that term so loosely and freely.
Here's my problem. You better listen to Dark Twisted
Kanye.
Fantasy again.
Yeah.
He got busy. I'm just saying.
I got to take a break. I got to take a break.
That's
But it sounds to me like he thinks it's that you can't have one with. It's a choice. That you can't have self-pride and be positive and try to improve yourself and have all those things that where you're going to better yourself, better your community, and still know.
Right.
And understand history.
It's a right-wing straw argument.
So it's like he doesn't understand that you can do both of those things.
You can be critical and have responsibility.
I'm a conservative, Don, and I'm still aware of my blackness. Like, come on.
That argument has
Except for that Kanye genius argument. That was microaggression.
That was.
We got a lot.
So thankful for the clip in CNN. I just wanted to present the clarity, the overall presentation of the context. Slavery as a choice. And I know you all are thinking about it. All the lines are lit. I'm going to go to the lines so we can begin the dialogue. But I just want to give a couple quotes. You know, I like quotes. And so I have a couple of them to intersperse throughout the rest of this conversation. Marcus Garvey, let's start with him. Quote, "A man who is not able to develop and use his mind is bound to be the slave of the other man who uses his mind." End of quote. Let me give it to you one again. The man who is not able to develop and use his mind, not his brain, but his mind, is bound to be the slave of the other man who uses his mind. So, the choice right now, we don't use our minds. We don't read. We don't think. We don't analyze. We don't create a conversation that causes us to question the things that we're told. And then, depending on who the person is giving the information, you take it just as it is. Isn't that slavery? The choice of slavery? Right now? Harriet Tubman, I freed 1,000 slaves. I could have freed 1,000 more if only they knew they were slaves. End of quote. I'm not trying to justify Kanye's statement because it's based out of his narrative. It's based out of his experience on where he is. And the truth is, as my muse told me yesterday, all of this is just, he believed, a brand opportunity, a positioning for Kanye West as he is coming out with a new album and all these things and what it looks like, that this is just what he wanted to start and say to create this conversation about him. Which I totally get that, absolutely. But it says something, it bears something for us to really start thinking about. And does it resonate with those who have a better understanding or are not so far removed from the physical slavery versus the millennials? I'd love to know, Princess, where are you at this morning? I'd love to know, as a millennial, what do you think about that conversation? Because the millennials, it's different, and I believe that based on, and to his point about the relevance of our historic icons. Are you mad at him for what he said? Does the struggle with Martin Luther King, does Dr. Martin Luther King, does that resonate today? If so, would we have more people out? Does it resonate with black folks? Because it seems like there's more other folk who are out constantly talking about equal rights, rights for people, how we're going to do this, what we should do, than the black folk. Did we work so hard through civil rights, after civil rights, to create opportunities for us, for our families, for our communities, that we missed the struggle with the next generation? Because the struggle is what made you better. The struggle is what caused your growth. The struggle is what creates drive and determination on the struggle. So many people might talk about, oh, I had it so bad growing up. But I promise you, if you're able to get out of that space, you're the person you are because you made it through the struggle. So struggles aren't always bad as you are growing. When a seed is planted, I'm going to give you this analogy, then I'm going to go to the lines. So think about it. If you look, imagine right now in your mental space that there's dirt and then you plant a seed. The seed has to struggle to get through the soil and the elements and all the other dynamics and the worms and everything that it could have to go against to grow. And then it peaks up out of the soil to develop into a plant. There's a struggle. And so in the midst of that, if you are not actively engaged, you're understanding the struggle, a part of the struggle, then maybe that means that you're a slave. We're putting it out there this morning. I want you, let's not let the first emotion be anger. We don't get anywhere in anger. But you always have, there's a better understanding when you look at the position of the person who makes the conversation. So when you are a different socioeconomic bracket, you might not relate to the struggle. We always talk about, Brother Tyrone talks about the black intelligentsia. Well, if the black intelligentsia were voted in to represent the black, poor, working class, how did you think there wouldn't be a disconnect? Because they don't identify. Do we get that? So are you really mad at the conversations that Kanye is presenting for us to all think about? Because he didn't grow up like that. His mother was a doctor, an education. He grew up with a thinking household and having those out-of-the-box conversations. So are we thinking about that? Are we shaping the conversations this morning in that vein? I'm going to go to the lines now. So thank you for indulging me, for being able to set up the conversation. And now it's a part for you to see what you think. So thanks for your patience. Great, amazing morning to you.
How you doing today?
I'm amazing, thank you.
First I got a shout out to TV 33, sure. Comcast, Channel 91, WHPR, Detroit Highland Park. I'm going to shout out all of the TV show hosts.
Sure.
I want to limit the time.
Okay.
And rest in peace, J.D. Hill.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Miss Collette, for giving different aspects about this Kanye West. Now, me, myself,
sure.
I run a hip-hop organization.
Of course.
I've tagged TV show host to TV 33 to not just the one that you showed, but the one that was behind off camera.
Okay.
I got the one that T.I. spoke about.
Sure.
I have the one that will.i.am spoke about.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you go on Facebook, you go to International Hip Hop, International Hip Hop 2, you'll really see what they not showing.
Okay.
So with that being said, first, Kanye West is an entertainer.
Okay.
People that look like me have a bad habit of empowering newscasters, people in sports, and people in the entertainment industry as our voice and as our power.
Okay.
But what is forgetting is they're not empowered to just the community that look like me.
Okay.
They have to go deal with a community that don't look like them.
Okay.
In order for people to look like me to empower them on a certain level.
So stay there for a minute.
West ain't nothing but entertainment.
Stay there for a minute, and I want you all to think about this. Hold on one second, and I want you all to think about, based on the comment that DJ Amal just said, we're talking about color and class. So there's a difference. When you're in a socioeconomic bracket, color is not an issue. Your financial status is the issue. I shared with you all briefly, and 8 Mom, I'm going to go back to you, when I went out and was visiting out at Country Day, Detroit Country Day School, you all know. And so it was their homecoming, and I'm out there visiting. And so I asked my sister, who her whole life went to Country Day from, first grade, and her children for their first grades. And I asked, I was like, oh, do you have a Black Alumni Association or something? She said, oh, no. It's just one Country Day. And I thought about it, and I said, touche. Because at the end of the day, if you are at Country Day, it's the understanding and the pedigree and the class that has put you in Country Day, whether you actively have that and live in that, or you aspire to that, and so you put your children in that environment to have different access and different experiences based on your social economic dynamic versus your skin color. So that shapes the narrative and the conversation. So please continue, 8 Mile.
Thank you.
Sure.
Because right now, there's too many people that look like me, too many people in the hood, empower people who really don't care about them, really don't love them. Okay? Kanye West was not doing nothing for, we'll say, the black cause as an entertainer. Okay. He did not even become a political or impressionable voice until he engaged somebody personally that didn't look like him. Now, mind you, everybody in the last year has associated Donald Trump with the Klan.
Okay.
Not me. That's public record.
Okay.
So, what other person that looked like us is going to wear something to inspire something that has a tradition of hating on people that look like them? Nobody. I've never seen no other person, minority, put on a great American be great again.
Well, stay right there a minute.
I have not seen a person of color.
Well, stay right there.
So by him being an entertainer, that's a shock value. Nothing more, nothing less. That's all he's been about, is a shock value. And the more attention you give an idiot, the more idiots feel that they are in power. Now, let's go to the newscaster that first brought it to attention that he offended him. And then the second video where he said, was I scared of you? My man was at his job. Why would he be scared of Kanye West? What most people don't know is, here in the United States, when it comes down to people that look like me, there's three perspectives. There's black, then there's Negro, or the N-word, then it's called Oreo, where somebody come from a background of the hood, but choose to actually be of another way. And then there is toasted. That's the person that look like me that really has no idea what the black experience is. Meaning, black is not a color. It's an experience. Blacks and whites been having babies in this country by choice and not by choice for over 100 years. So, but they don't put that in the definition. So let's go back to the Kanye West.
So stay there for a minute.
As an entertainer.
So stay there.
And the way he came up is off the entertainment industry. And the more extreme things he do, is the more attention that he gets.
Okay, so stay there. Hold
I
on.
understand what he said on the TV show. Look at all of this attention he get. Now, let's go back to what our president
Wait
just
a minute.
did.
Wait a
Let's
minute.
just
Wait,
go back to city politics. Let's
wait
go
1
back
second.
to world politics.
Wait 1 second.
You don't see nobody that look like me involved with none of that when it comes down to this country. That's the reality.
No.
Now,
wait a
because I'm
minute.
entertaining? Oh, okay.
Okay, so wait 1 minute. So this is what I want to, okay, because you made several comments, and I want us to I was trying to get you to hold on for a second. So look, why do we act like we all have to believe the same thing? Let me ask that. And this is just a general statement. So why do we act like that just because all of us that might have a black, brown, tan skin color in America have to believe the same thing? Why do we then believe that we all have the same experience in America? Because we don't. We don't. And so is that a component of us being brainwashed to believe that all of us have to identify with a certain thing, where all of us have to support a certain ideology? All of us, why and I'm just asking. So for the comments of a Kanye West, I mean, he's one person. Everyone is going to, I saw the T.I. interview, not a problem. I haven't seen the Will I Am. Absolutely. But do you realize that everyone who analyzes his comments, it's going to be based off of your personal experience? There are going to be people that are in higher socioeconomic brackets who are people of color. Hello, there are black folks that voted for Donald Trump. Let me just say, hello, newsflash. Not everyone that voted for Donald Trump was white folks in Appalachia, or white folks off of Wall Street, or white folks who were living in Virginia. Hello, there are black folks.
There were Chaldeans and Arabs.
There were black, and
for Donald Trump.
And there were black folk.
Yes,
who voted
everybody under the spectrum of the United States.
Who voted for Donald Trump. So I'm asking, why now is there such a big uproar? Because he said it. There are black folk who don't associate with slavery. There are black folk who don't associate with what's going on in urban Americas right now. If they did, why do we have so many black folks that live in the suburbs? When everything happened hold on. Why, if that's the case, why do we have so many people with black? Wait, hold on. I can't talk and you can't talk. You got to give me a minute. If that's the case, if we had so many folks who identified differently, why do we have the black flight? There's an article, let me share that with you, that was in the Detroit News. No, this one I got from the New York Times. My bad. New York Times, Gilbert Ilitch pitched Detroit on real estate convention, okay? And this was from May 2nd. No, I'm sorry, it was in the Detroit News. It says, Christopher Ilitch started his pitch about Detroit by pointing out decades of institutional racism faced by African Americans and calling Interstate 75 a psychological and physical barrier that had created big problems. This is what Chris Ilitch said. But this is the same Ilitches who've been downtown. Everybody, okay, they've done all that, they've made their wealth, they've done all this. He's acknowledged so why do we act like we don't understand what happens in America? You knew that downtown Detroit wasn't going to be built up until white folks came in and believed in the vision and that they could do what they do with other white folk to create a healthy city. They weren't going to come down and support a black man in the position of mayor over one of the largest cities in America. Just like now, everyone's getting all up in arms, and excuse the expression, getting your panties in a bunch because Kanye is talking about slavery, but we live in slavery every day. You heard Harriet Tubman, quote from Harriet Tubman, as it is believed, that who was taking folks to freedom and said, I could have done more if they realized they were slaves. So is he so wrong with choice? She just said if people knew that they were slaves. Today, do we know that we are still slaves? Because we still expect somebody else to do something for us. I'm just asking. I'm going to put you back on so you can finish your thoughts so I can get to the rest of the calls this morning. Okay, you're back.
Yes, ma'am. Well, thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
Because, see, like I said, at the end of the day, there's laws. There's people that died to change the laws here. My ancestry died to help change the law. Your ancestors died to help change the law. So when Kanye West said that slavery, 400 years, just got in some of people's head, That's what he was wrong in. But second, he's a multimillionaire, but he hang out with multimillionaires. What has he done?
Well, stay there. And I'm not,
you.
wait, stay right there for a second. Stay right there. Stay right there. Why then do we expect him to do something else? I'm just asking, and I'm not asking that you have to have a comment for me.
No.
I'm just saying,
He doesn't have
why?
to do anything.
No, hold on.
But why empower
Hold
what
on.
he said?
Hold on.
That's what I'm saying.
Hold on. If anybody who is a millionaire, multimillionaire, thousandaire, hasn't given back to our communities, we don't do the best for our communities, and we live in our communities. I mean, does anyone, let me just ask, I'm asking, why do you think, don't people look and say, I'm going to help you, I'm going to do stuff for you based on what you do with what you have? Haven't you heard that? Haven't you heard people say, well, wow, I saw that you all were working so hard with what you had that then I'm going to come in and help you because I see what you're doing and how you value what you have and how you're trying to make something out of nothing. We don't do that. If we don't do that as a whole in our communities for ourselves, why then do we put the onus on all these other people that have amassed what we identify as wealth, because you all look at it from a monetary position as opposed to a psychological position? You could have money all day long and still do nothing, be nothing. That just means that you can pay your bills on time, you can accumulate more debt on time, you can buy more things and more expensive things on time. That's all that the majority of people who have money do, because they just give it back. All these people that have money, they're slaves. You saw, we talked about the book, The $40 Million Slave, the folks who are in athletics. They don't, no one else is doing anything. So they get the contracts, they go buy the big houses. They're not owning the real estate companies. They're not developing their own houses. They're not buying the land. They're not developing as a whole. They're not owning the auto dealerships, and they're going to, hold on, you gotta let me finish talking. They're not owning the automobile dealerships. They're going to spend, we're consuming. That hasn't made anything better. Or you go buy your mama or your family, somebody a car and a house. Someone else is getting that money. I'm just asking. The slavery thing, is it by choice? I'm going to let you finish, and I'm going to get to the rest of the callers. So your last comment, please.
There ain't one place in the city that from the street, the pipeline in the street, to the development to the top of the roof, there is an apartment complex, a rental place, a mall. There is no place that's been developed by people that look like me. From the pipes in the street, the foundation, all the way up.
Well,
and until people that look like me, think like that here in Detroit.
No.
I say buy used property. I said build new. Talk about the plumbing, the concrete, the foundation, and build it straight up. We always gonna be working for somebody else.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you giving me absolutely.
You're gonna be the first one that's gonna do it. Okay. I know that you're gonna lay something straight from the dirt all the way up. I'm gonna be there to help you all the way.
And that's what I'm doing right now. I laid this conversation from the dirt and I birthed it up. So if that's not something, I don't know what is. I appreciate you so much, A-Mal. Have an amazing day.
I appreciate you.
No problem.
Amazing day. Great stuff. Thank you for bringing us, for giving us the opportunity.
Sure. Not a
very
problem.
entertaining.
Okay, thank you. So everyone, you've heard it. I gave them a little more time because we do have 2 hours together. And so I'm going to go to the next line. I appreciate your call. But is it a choice? I'm just asking. Give us something else to think about. Thanks for your patience. Good morning to you.
Yes, good morning.
Okay. I can't hear. Brother Tyrone, give me a little volume because I can't hear you well, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes, that's much better.
Hello?
Yes, that's much better.
It's much better?
Yes, sir.
Okay, yes. I'm sorry I had it on speaker.
Okay.
We live in America in a capitalist, the economy is built on capitalism.
Yes.
Those who has a minority who has the control of production, ownership of production, and have money, they hire other people who don't have no social property and no money.
Mm-hmm.
And majority of the American people of all races, they out of 300-something million, you got 100 and about 25 million workers of all colors.
Yeah.
So most people in the United States and all capitalist countries of the world, they don't own business.
Right.
So, other words, you got a class society.
Yes.
Capital is a relationship between those who own property and those who don't own property. One get profit and one get wages.
Okay.
Now you got another group, those who work for government, school system, city government, state government, just have your social services stuff. Those people do not create capital because they're not in a capital relationship.
Right.
They receive their income from taxes, revenue.
Okay.
So they have nothing to do with developing profits and extending the capital system.
Okay.
They are what they call extensional costs.
Right. Brother Tyrone,
Now,
give me 1 second. This is what we're going to do. Hold on 1 second. I'm going to take a break so we can get back into the 8 o'clock hour and then finish your call. Can you hold on? And all
Yes,
the
I
other
can.
calls, okay, everyone else, I see you. Hold on, everyone. You know, I got to follow the protocol of this amazing television station, TV 33. So don't go anywhere. We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be right back to have more coffee and conversation.